Let's try calling a stored procedure with parameters in SQL Server. This one, in addition, has an output parameter. Let's step into this one. Here we have, I'm going to step over this code, which is provided by Visual Studio as part of the properties settings. Didn't need to see that. As we step into this, you'll see now we're going to call the add category procedure. If you remember back earlier in this demonstration, we showed when we created that add category stored procedure. This stored procedure, and I've got to specify I'm calling a stored procedure, this stored procedure has an output parameter, and I'll specify that first. It doesn't need to be first, but it does need to have its direction set. So I'll create a new parameter. I'll set its parameter name to be @return, and the name is somewhat arbitrary. The important thing is setting the direction. The direction indicates that this is an output value, and just the return value of the stored procedure, and I've added it to the collection of parameters. Okay. We can't use add with value because there is no value. So for that return value, you have to write all that code. But for the other parameters, the input parameters, you can just use the standard add with value, specifying the parameter name and its value. I know there's a category name and a category value, and we're going to add to our categories table a new category named Candy with a description test item. All right, well, here's how it works. We also have, as part of this stored procedure, an out parameter. This is the category ID, which gets passed back to us. So here, we've set up this new parameter named @categoryID of type SQLDBType.int. We set its direction to be output and then add it to our collection of parameters. So we now have 4 parameters: return value, 2 input parameters, and 1 out parameter, which is the category ID, which gets created for us by SQL Server. Open the connection, execute the query, which runs the stored procedure, and now we're going to get parameters back from our command. Remember, we had 2 values come back to us. We had the category ID parameter, so we'll retrieve that first by name, and then we have the return value parameter. We'll retrieve that one by name. If there's an error, this would have an error code in it. Since these are both return parameters or output parameters, we can get them after we run the stored procedure. We'll see here in the output, the identity is 10, that's the primary key of the new row, and the error value, the return value from our stored procedure, is 0. So it's that parameters collection that you specify on that command object that makes it possible to retrieve that information.